So here we are again, Mazda jobs. So as you've seen in one of my previous videos, about a year and a half ago, I refurbed the rear end of the car from about sort of just behind the door back, new subframe, all that kind of stuff. So now it's the turn of the front. I still need to do the middle section and any rust kind of issues here. I've had a subframe powder coated, separate subframe and a brace and everything like that. So what I want to do is I want to refurb the front end. It's March, I haven't got a garage, I'm outside, so basically I'm going to see how far I can get. So basically I want to get, you can drop the subframe with all the suspension components on, you could drop the whole thing. It's going to be a really weighty item though, so what I'm going to do is the bits have got to come off to swap over to the other subframe anyway, so I'm going to take it off side by side. So I'm going to take off all the suspension arms. Luckily these are new suspension arms, new bolts, these have been out recently. So it should all come off pretty nicely. So take all that off, do the same on the other side. Then I'm going to support the engine from above with an engine brace, and then I'm going to drop the subframe and drop it off. And then really the subframe, it mounts here, so you've got this section that could be corroded, and then obviously you've got this section at the top of the subframe between the chassis, so that could be corroded as well. You can see obviously the subframe is quite rusty and things like that, so want to get that off. So basically just going to take this side suspension off. Right, I've got all the wishbones off. I've disconnected the brakes here, so I will need to re-bleed them because obviously that's let air into the system. The steering rack is going to come out with the subframe, so you need to undo the steering joint, so I'm going to do that in a second. Going to take off some of these panels so I can get to things. Yeah, and obviously I've got the whole other side to do, but I won't show you that because it's exactly the same as this side. I've undone the power steering here. It was just one of those clips you push together, moved it up the hose, pulled this hose off, and just draining out the steering fluid because the steering rack's going to come down with it. So I'm going to have to take off a couple of fittings as well, so let that happen. Just about to take this brace off. It's the one that attaches to the bottom of the subframe, so it's got bolts at the front and back. So take those off and take this brace off. So you need to support the engine. I've got one of these engine bay braces, so I'm using that. If you haven't got one of these, maybe use a jack somehow underneath. But you need to support the engine before you take the remaining subframe bolts out and then lower the subframe. Right, okay, I hope you can see in there. So what I've done, so I've taken out the banjo bolt here, and if you follow that hose along, it has a bracket bolt in a rubber up there, and I've taken that off as well. I'm going to ease, I've got a jack in the middle of the subframe. I'm going to ease it down and see what we get caught on. Just easing it down so it's coming down, so it's not releasing from somewhere. So I'm on the passenger side of the car. Looks like there's some bracketry in there, 2 small bolts. Need to get that off before it will come down. So I've got the ABS sensors off, hopefully. Catching on one side, let's see what that is. It's just on the subframe studs. And it fell off. There you go, there's your subframe. Out. So I have degreased, put some spray degreasant on there and jet washed it. I'm going to wipe off the moisture in a minute, and then I'm going to start attacking it with angry wheel. So basically it's an angle grinder with a screw-on wire attachment. So I've got that one, and I've got that one. And yeah, I'm going to attack in here, attack under here, and yeah, just keep going, try and get rid of all the rust. It doesn't look that bad, so we'll see how it goes. So I've gone around with the angry wheel and taken off. It really isn't that bad. So taking this off, it's really scary how easy the paint comes off. I've gone over anything with a hole has surface rust. Picked up anything I can. Those holes, some holes down here. I've done the area where the subframe fits. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to scratch up the rest of the paint. I am actually going to go over a rust encapsulator over the whole area, So I'm going to give it a key to stick to, because the one thing it said on the instructions is it does need a key. So I'm not going to paint on the rubberized bits, but most of this grey area I'm going to go over, and then obviously touch up those bits that I've just gone to bare metal. It really, like I said, I'm really glad it's really not that bad. So yeah, it's actually not that big a job. I'm going to spray some cavity paint into these hole areas. So I've got Buzzweld rust encapsulator and a trusty brush, and I'm just going to do the bits that need to be done. So you don't really want to watch me paint, but I'm basically going to paint. So I've gone around with the rust encapsulator. That's just one coat. I've gone right into the turret here, covered all the bits. Obviously it needs another layer on it, but covered all the areas down there. Yeah, gone all the way under here where there's a little bit of rust. As it says, just trying to encapsulate it. I'll do another coat, and then I'll top it with silver to put it back to how it was before. So yeah, not bad, and not a particularly hard job. Now I'm just about to use the cavity wax, which is Buzzweld cavity wax. This comes with a 360 nozzle that you can put into the cavities, basically spray and then just slowly retract the nozzle out, and hopefully it was spraying in 360 degrees all the way through. Just tested it coming through, so it's this kind of colour. Let's see, let's get this in. So basically you've got your nozzle, put it into your cavity, depending how far you want to go in, but let's go all the way in, shall we? Doesn't hurt. And slowly retract the nozzle. There we go. Pretty happy with that. It's good to get some in there, and just going to wipe that excess off. So it's the next day. Primer's all dried. It's a little bit cold, so I'm going to heat the primer up with a hot air gun. I've then got top coat in the silver. This is the paint I've sprayed before. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to brush it on, so we're going to see how that goes. Should be alright, depends how thin it is. And yeah, so basically it's heating up and painting, so let's crack on. So as you can see, the silver is brushing on absolutely fine. It's going on, actually paints nicer than the encapsulator does. It's obviously going to need more than one coat, but that's to be expected. But yeah, so just continue on, paint it up, put the first coat on all those bits across here. Obviously going to work my way across and under here, and then wait for that to dry a bit, and then hopefully get a second coat on each side today as well. So really try and get a good thick coat on in the end, and hopefully that will give it some years of protection. It's a week later, and I'm back again, and the silver has all gone off. Looks really good. Done all the parts down there. That's good. One thing I noticed was a really rusty, see if you can get in there and see that, really rusty water line there. So what I've done is they're about £100 normally, so all I've done is like that, is bought a second-hand one. The pipe is a lot better. Yes, the hanger's still a bit rusty. I'll clean that up a little bit before it goes on, but that should give it a few more years than this rusty thing in here. So yeah, time to crack on. So getting the front subframe prep to go back in, it's much easier, well I haven't done it yet, but much easier to fit the steering rack back on. So you've got the steering rack on, fit the roll bar at this point because it is a nightmare to put on afterwards. So fiddle that, I put all the tabs back in the subframe, so that's pretty much ready to go. Catching on an ABS sensor there. Right. Sick. Ready.
here will be fine. Get it in there. A bit further. Can. I think that'll go. Right. Right, okay.
Things are going well. We've got the subframe up now, got it bolted in, or bolts there, nutted there. Best thing to do with the engine mounts is to take them off the engine, bolt them to the subframe, and then you're coming straight up into the engine mount, whereas you would probably scratch it to death because those bolts are on an angle. So that's all good. All the steering, power steering's connected. So really the next kind of thing is getting suspension arms on. You know, it's not rocket science, you bolt them up. So I'm not going to show you things like that because that's just really, you know, simple stuff. So just keep on cracking. Got the bolt with the shock. So all these bolts I put them with copperies on the edge there to stop them getting seized. So I've used the impact driver to get the nuts done up for these ball joints. That's fine. This top ball joint takes a split pin, so I just need to finish the split pin off. So basically cut it down a little bit, bend it back on itself. Then the back disc plate goes in with the hub, that gets all bolted up. Need to put the new tie rod on, and yeah, and then just start putting all the brakes back together. Weirdly, the new rod ends had a really long threaded section, so I've just put the standard nut on. Done this up, put some copperies on where the bearing's going to go. This is when you get your modified rear brake shield, brake disc shield, and then the ABS sensor goes at the top. Slide that into the upright, probably needs a little bit of knocking in. Line that up, and then put the 4 bolts in behind. So moving on, the Brembo brake kit doesn't fit my wheel, so we've missed that. So we've been putting in, I had these Goodrich hoses for quite a while. I've done the rear ones, but haven't done the front. So I've been fitting them up on these brackets, putting them via P-clips in this center section, and then attaching here, putting the old brakes back on. Found out that I shouldn't have put the bolt into the back of the subframe here because I needed this brace to go on, so I took that bolt back out each side, fitted this brace, so that's also been powder coated and all sorted. So yeah, it's looking really nice, all coming together. Just touching a few things up now. Need to put some roll bar drop links on, that type of thing, and then got to bleed the water again and bleed the brakes, and then I'm done. Little mistake I made, remember to put the back plastic in before you put the shock and top wishbone on, because it doesn't go in, obviously, because this isn't split, this hole. So luckily I've got Meister shocks and I've just lowered them and I was able to pop it over the top. But yes, what a mistake to make her. So yeah, so don't do that. So the car's all back together, not much footage at the end as it's been raining. Yeah, basically just putting the suspension components back on, everything like the under tray and the side and the inner arches. Obviously it needs complete alignment because every single bolt at the front's been messed around with. Steering, camber, caster. So yeah, it all needs setting up. But yeah, that's the front end, all back together. Really pleased. Went together, what's that? That's probably 2 full days to get that done, maybe 2.5. Yeah, not bad for on a driveway in the winter.